The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Market confidence, sustainable capital, and tech infrastructure on a massive scale. Hello, welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, June 25, 2025. I'm Yanil Wood. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, Barita Investments boss insists Jamaica's capital market remains viable despite pressures from the current economic climate. On the regional front, the OPEC fund considers issuing sustainable bonds to channel private capital into small island economies across the Caribbean. And over on the global stage, Meta breaks ground on a $10 billion artificial intelligence data center in rural Louisiana, poised to become the largest in the Western Hemisphere. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after our first break.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today.
FESCO started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational.
Caribbean flavors and fragrances. I have seen that our company has expanded tremendously after being listed.
Our experience so far has translated into additional customers.
Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency.
Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates.
We have expanded in terms of our customer base, in terms of our suppliers.
All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
Make that call now.
You will be glad you did.
Been coming along well.
Thanks, man. You know, it's a long time I've been working at it.
I can see that. I saw your mail by the gate, so I'll pick it up for you. But tell me something. Why are you still receiving dividend checks by mail?
What do you mean about that?
You need to give JCSD a mandate.
You know, me hear about the mandate them. I'm going over there right now.
A mandate means giving instructions to the Jamaica Central Securities Depository Limited, JCSD, relating to the handling of your dividend or interest payment. There are 3 types of mandates: The first is a bank mandate. The second is a hold mandate. Lastly, we have what we call a third-party mandate, with which the investor may wish to send their dividend or interest to someone other than the parties on their account or institution of their choice.
Me grew up and see my granny save her money under her mattress.
Exactly. Okay. Your grandmother house never burned down?
No, how you reached that, so? That was a one-off thing.
That could have happened to anybody. That's why you must put your money in a financial institution and protect it.
What if the bank crash?
Well, that's where JDIC comes in.
What you mean?
JDIC is a financial safety net which provides coverage for your money in case your financial institution fails.
Explain that to me.
All right. Because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with news from the capital markets. Chief Executive Officer of Burrito Investments Limited, Ramon Small Ferguson, is reaffirming confidence in Jamaica's capital markets, declaring that they remain open for business. His remarks came on Tuesday following the listing of Burrito's latest bond on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, a landmark transaction that was oversubscribed. Small Ferguson, addressing stakeholders during the ceremony at the JC's headquarters in downtown Kingston, encouraged stakeholders seeking to raise capital to tap into the local markets, emphasizing their strength and reliability.
I mean, there is a split view. Hear that the economy is in a recession. Hear that, boy, the market is dead. Well, I'll tell you, we've just done a landmark transaction. We've raised more money than anybody else has ever raised via this medium, right? And almost, how much? There is almost $8 billion. That's not a small amount of money to mobilize. So it tells you that the market is very much open for business, right? But retail investments is open for business.
He insists the time to take advantage of the market is now.
Despite the varying views that are out there, it means that something good is happening. And there's no better time than the present to take advantage of that. Right? So I'd encourage us all, whether we are potential users of capital with our businesses, or whether we're potential investors, now is the time to get constructive. Right? So it may not be an IPO in the conventional sense, right? A equity listing. But here is another medium, right, via the public markets where funding can be sourced.
CEO of Burrito Investments Limited, Ramon Small Ferguson. The Jamaica Stock Exchange JC Group delivered a solid financial performance for the year ended December 31, 2024, with net profit surpassing 490 million Jamaican dollars. At the JC's annual general meeting earlier today, Chairman Stephen Whittingham lauded the exchange for what he described as a commendable performance for the financial year. He also underscored the exchange's progress, highlighting the company's ability to increase earnings per share from approximately 60 cents to more than 70 cents during the fiscal year.
The company achieved a net profit of 496 million Jamaican dollars, up from 416 million Jamaican dollars in 2023, while earnings per share increased from 59 cents to 71 cents over the same period. During the year, the company also successfully raised over 16 billion Jamaican dollars through 10 new listings. Market performance was also positive, with growth being recorded across all markets, except for the junior market, which maintained a relatively steady performance throughout the period.
Whittingham also pointed to a major milestone of the JSE with the successful launch of the DataSphere platform.
During the period, the JSE launched DataSphere. It's a platform which is centralized, it's online, it's electronic, and it's a data center offering over 50 years of comprehensive and accurate financial market information from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. The platform provides access to data through both free and subscription-based services. This service is expected to revolutionize the way financial decisions are made and to serve as a valuable resource for professional and academic research at universities and colleges.
Another key achievement highlighted by the JSE chairman was the successful staging of the Guyana Conference.
This initiative continues to signal promising potential for capital market growth within the region, and we remain committed to fostering greater synergies across the Caribbean.
Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Stephen Whittingham. In other news, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, MIIC, Jamaica's business ministry, has awarded a total of Jamaican $3 million in grants through the micro and small business pitch competitions. 5 small business winners each received Jamaican $400,000, while 5 micro business winners were awarded $200,000 each. The government says these awards reflect its commitment to supporting business expansion, promoting digital adoption, and boosting Jamaica's export capacity. The MSMEs were awarded at the 8th staging of the MIIC's flagship MSME Business Roadshow held at the Mannings High School in Westmoreland last Wednesday. The roadshow attracted approximately 200 MSMEs, representing a wide cross-section of Jamaica's productive sectors, including arts, manufacturing, craft, ICT services, entertainment, agriculture and agro-processing, professional and technical services, and wholesale and retail trade. The initiative was delivered in strategic partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, and is supported by public and private sector sponsors. Delivering the keynote address, Senator Aubin Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, issued a bold call to Jamaican entrepreneurs and business owners, labeling them as central to Jamaica's economic future. The minister encouraged every entrepreneur in Westmoreland and across Jamaica to increase their productivity and to create high-quality goods and services for export and build strong partnerships with local companies. And now for news from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. At the end of currency trading on Wednesday, the US dollar is selling for $161.22, the Canadian for $117.57, and the pound for $219.44. The going rate for the euro is $187.75. Up next, trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 97 stocks traded on the JSE Wednesday, of which 40 advanced, 39 declined, and 18 traded firm. Iron Rock Insurance Company, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, JFP Limited, and Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica led the winners, while leading the losers were R.A. Williams Distributors, the Limners and Bards, Sagicor Real Estate X Fund, and JMMB Group 7.15% cumulative redeemable preference shares. The main index declined by 1,119.63 points, or 0.36%, to close at 309,555.28. The junior market index, however, advanced by 16.27 points, or 0.48%, to close at 3,377.70. And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard. In today's market education feature, we'll be discussing the term HACCP certification. The Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point HACCP certification is an internationally recognized system for managing food safety. Rooted in the Codex General Principles of Food Hygiene, HACCP outlines clear requirements for controlling hazards in the production of food, beverages, and ingredients. Achieving HACCP certification demonstrates a company's commitment to food safety and regulatory compliance. It provides an evidence-based framework that supports inspections and builds trust among customers, regulators, and business partners. Now, beyond compliance, HACCP certification can enhance brand reputation, facilitate market access, and unlock new business opportunities, making it a powerful asset in today's competitive food and beverage industry. The market education feature was brought to you by Caricris, regional ratings, global standards. And that's it for market education feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us. The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
And now for the regional business news. The OPEC Fund for International Development is preparing to enter the sustainable bonds market, with plans to issue both green and blue bonds to support economic resilience in small island developing states, SIDS. The move, revealed by OPEC Vice President for Public Sector Operations, Shaimai Al-Shaibi, signals a strategic shift in how the fund mobilizes capital for climate-vulnerable nations. The upcoming bond instruments are designed to attract private investors interested in environmental, social, and governance ESG assets, a growing global pool now valued in the trillions. Unlike traditional development lending, the proceeds from these bonds will be earmarked for targeted climate-smart projects. Blue bonds in particular remain a niche but fast-emerging asset class, and the OPEC fund's entry could bring greater visibility and scale to marine-focused investments.
The second is a new sphere for us, which is the issuance of green and blue bonds. As we know, SIDS are too small and very much heavily indebted. They cannot just simply rely on sovereign lending. So these blue bonds would collect and direct private capital to support these very fragile economies.
OPEC Vice President for Public Sector Operations, Shaimai Al-Shaibi. The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, and IDB Invest have announced a renewed strategic partnership aimed at accelerating private sector development across the Caribbean by expanding trade finance access, particularly for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. At the heart of the collaboration is CDB's new Trade Finance Guarantee Program, designed to address a critical barrier in the region, which is the limited access to timely trade financing. Through a Risk Participation Agreement, RPA, IDB Invest will share in the risk associated with loans, enabling greater lending capacity and more support for businesses engaged in regional and international trade. Division Chief for Private Sector at the CDB, Lisa Harding, says this partnership will enhance access to trade investment across member countries, crowd in private sector resources, foster economic growth, and deepen regional integration. Trade finance is essential in bridging funding gaps between trading partners, helping businesses, especially SMEs, to compete effectively in global markets. The partnership also plans joint project financing and capacity building efforts to foster a more resilient and dynamic private sector environment. In other news, the Barbados Private Sector Association, BPSA, is warning that persistent high living costs will remain the norm unless the country urgently addresses its productivity shortcomings. BPSA Chair Tricia Tanis said on Tuesday that while businesses, particularly supermarkets, will inevitably pass on the cost of the recent minimum wage hike to consumers, the deeper issue of low national productivity remains unaddressed. Tanis emphasized that the new minimum wage of $10.50 per hour, up from $8.50, represents a nearly 30% increase in labor costs for some companies. For retailers and other low-margin businesses, that translates directly into higher consumer prices. Supermarket chains such as A1 supermarkets have already signaled price increases on essentials. Tanis also stressed that Barbados must do more to boost competitiveness, support local industries, and eliminate inefficiencies. She acknowledged that external pressures such as rising shipping and import costs are beyond local control. However, she argued that internal inefficiencies like low productivity, outdated business processes, and uncompetitive practices are barriers the country can and must address. And from Barbados, we go to Trinidad and Tobago for trading news from the stock exchange. 19 securities traded on the TTSE Wednesday, of which 4 advanced, 5 declined, and 10 traded firm. Today's winners were Guardian Media, Prestige Holdings, Massey Holdings, and Angostura Holdings, while leading the losers were National Enterprises, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, Scotiabank TNT, and CIBC Caribbean Bank. Other results of the day include the All TNT Index declining by 1.79 to close at 1,507.50. The Composite Index declining by 1.09 to close at 1,037.30. And the Cross-Listed Index also declined, but by 0.05 to close at 74.78. And still at 91.81 is the SME Index. And we go for a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment with Nielsen Rose is up next.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, in the heart of rural northeastern Louisiana, where soybean fields once stretched for miles, bulldozers now carve out the future. On a sprawling 2,250-acre site between Rayville and Delhi, Meta is building what will become the largest data center in the Western Hemisphere, a $10 billion behemoth designed to power the next generation of artificial intelligence. To land this transformative project, Louisiana pulled out all the stops. Billions in tax incentives were offered, and the local utility Entergy committed to constructing 3 new power plants to meet the center's enormous energy demands. The state legislature even passed new tax reform laws to sweeten the deal, positioning Louisiana as a more attractive destination for tech giants. Governor Jeff Landry hailed the investment as a new chapter for the state, promising that it would revitalize the region and anchor Louisiana's growing tech sector. The project is expected to create 500 permanent jobs, with an additional 5,000 construction workers employed at its peak. Indirectly, over 1,000 more jobs could be generated in the surrounding communities. But the deal has sparked debate. Critics question whether the economic benefits justify the steep costs. Data centers, while technologically vital, are notorious for consuming vast amounts of electricity and water while offering relatively few long-term jobs. Meta has pledged to match its energy use with 100% renewable sources, but environmental concerns remain. Still, for a state long dependent on oil, gas, and agriculture, the Meta data center represents a bold pivot toward a digital future. Whether it becomes a model for rural revitalization or a cautionary tale of corporate incentives gone too far remains to be seen. WTI crude futures rebounded above $65 per barrel on Wednesday, recovering from a sharp 13% drop over the previous 2 sessions, the steepest 2-day decline since 2022. The market remains focused on geopolitical developments in the Middle East, where a U.S. brokered ceasefire between Iran and Israel appears to be holding. In a notable policy shift, President Trump signaled support for China, Tehran's largest oil consumer, to continue importing Iranian crude, potentially easing long-standing U.S. sanctions. Despite the truce, uncertainty persists after a preliminary U.S. intelligence report indicated that recent American strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities have only temporarily delayed Iran's nuclear program by a few months. Meanwhile, U.S. crude stockpiles fell by 4.28 million barrels last week, far exceeding expectations of a 0.6 million barrel draw. This marks the 4th straight weekly decline and the 6th in the past 8 weeks, highlighting tightening supply conditions. Mortgage rates in the United States rose slightly in mid-June, with the average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage for conforming loans increasing by 4 basis points to 6.88%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. This follows a brief dip to 6.84%, the lowest level in 6 weeks. Despite a modest decline in Treasury yields amid geopolitical tensions and the latest Fed meeting, mortgage rates remain within a narrow range. Rates for the FHA-backed loans also inched up to 6.59%, while the 15-year fixed rate mortgages eased to 6.11%. Higher borrowing costs continue to weigh on the housing market. Building permits fell 2% in May to an annualized rate of 1.394 million, the lowest since June 2020. Single-family permits dropped 2.6% to 899,000, while multi-family permits rose slightly. Regionally, declines were seen in the Northeast, South, and West, with only the Midwest posting gains. Despite rising rates, mortgage application volumes rose 1.1% in the week ending June 20th, partially recovering from a 2.6% drop the week before. Refinancing activity, which is more sensitive to rate changes, climbed 3%, while purchase applications remained largely flat. Analysts attribute the resilience in applications to concerns over energy prices and fiscal policy, which have supported longer-term yields. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Neil for your recap.
Welcome back, and now to recap our top stories. Barita's boss insists Jamaica's capital market remains viable despite current economic climate. Regionally, OPEC fund eyes sustainable bonds to channel private capital into small island economies. And on the international scene, Meta breaks ground on $10 billion AI data center in rural Louisiana. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Neil Wood. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.